Hello there everyone, how are you doing today? I hope you are all well. Today I'll be reading a Pokemon creepypasta thus titled, Call of Charon. I hope you enjoy. Please like and subscribe if you do. And without further ado, let's get started. Julius Productions. Sit down, get comfy, and await your aura. Okay, so this happened to me almost a week ago or so, give or take. I was on the bus on my way to school, playing my Soul Silver on my DS, when the bus lurched a little at the stop. This wasn't unusual. A lot of the city buses were in disrepair, and their engine stalling was common. I only sighed in annoyance, and this, until something slid from the back of the bus after its sudden stop, the object coming to a halt by my seat. It appeared to be an abandoned Pokewalker. To my surprise, I bent down and picked it up to have a closer look, distracting myself with it while the bus driver tried valiantly to restart the engines, all other passengers around me groaning impatiently. Upon closer inspection, though, I found that the little Pokewalker was fairly scuffed and dirty, but worse yet was the screen on the thing. The clear plastic covering had been scratched badly, looking as if someone had done it on purpose with keys or something, to the point that it would be otherwise near impossible to tell what kind of Pokemon was within. That is, if the thing was truly even worked. Curious, my thumb hovered over the middle power button, debating if I should turn it on or not. That was when the bus suddenly started running again, the sound startling me to where I simply tucked the Pokewalker into my bag. I forgot all about it through the bus drive and through my classes until I got home later that evening. I was digging in my bag when I got comfortable at home, surprised when my fingers brushed the mangled Pokewalker I had forgotten. I looked at it over again, and honestly I couldn't help feeling a bit of pity. Shrugging, I figured it was worth a try as I pulled out my DS, and finally turned the little Pokewalker on further, shocked to hear it beep to life. I squinted at the scraped screen, feeling even more sorry for the homeless Pokemon, when I discovered with some difficulty that it was a Gardevoir inside. Gardevoir, you are one of my most favorite Pokemon, and it was really sad that someone would just abandon theirs like this. There was no way this thing hadn't been damaged on purpose, I figured, so I hoped beyond hope that maybe, just maybe, I could get it into my own game. I started up my Soul Silver to the Pokewalker menu, and pointed the device to my DS card, finding the connect function. With obvious difficulty, my jaw dropped. It connected! Charon had returned from its walk. I couldn't help but smile at the warm feeling of adopting this poor Pokemon as its data streamed into my DS. Up until something went horribly wrong. Oh, so horribly wrong. The sprite didn't finish loading, stopping right when the vague shape of the Gardevoir appeared on the screen, and it suddenly seemed to freeze. I panicked, realizing I probably accidentally downloaded some kind of glitched or hacked Pokemon of some kind. I went to shut it off in hopes of saving my data, when the dialog box went from showing the vague Gardevoir shape to stating, saving, do not shut off power. It wasn't frozen, I realized, but still a little stumped why Charon's. as the Gardevoir's name seemed to be. The sprite didn't want to load. That was when I also noted that it didn't go to a small journal about Charon's adventures in its Pokewalker either. I decided I would have a look at the Pokemon as soon as I could, so I let the game finish saving before starting up my game again. I was already in a Pokemon Center, so immediately I booted up the PC to check my boxes. I found Charon's sprite and immediately selected it to have a look at its stats. I nearly screamed and dropped my DS in horror when I finally got a good look at his sprite and his cry. Charon was a disturbing sight for a Gardevoir. His skin was a dark, ugly green, and hair an odd dark shade of an almost purple. His eyes were solid black, not just his pupils, and dripping from what looked like an equally black ooze. And where his horn should be on his chest was the same black ooze too, and a hole, as if the horn had been completely torn out. His cry was garbled somehow, and almost sounded as if he were in pain. I had to shut off my DS a second time and take a deep breath, realizing that maybe it really was just a hacked Gardevoir. So I figured he could be good on my team. When I finally collected myself, I got a better look at his stats, and was shocked to find that he was already level 100. But oddly enough, he had 0 HP. Oh yeah, I realized, rolling my eyes. He had to have been hacked. He was a male Gardevoir, level 100, with a quiet nature. His attacks were a little off though, or so I think. I never did pay attention to whether or not Pokemon could learn certain moves after all. He knew Perish Song, Destiny Bond, Shadow Ball, and Teleport. I thought it was odd that a high-level Gardevoir, a hacked one at that, would still have Teleport, but I didn't question it. I switched it out with one of my other Pokemon, the one at the top of my party, to get Charon, immediately healing my party to fill his HP again as well. When I checked on him after this, however, I was shocked to find that, besides all my Pokemon, Charon's HP was still at 0. I decided that since he was at the top of my party, to have my trainer talk to him and see how he liked me. A speech bubble appeared over his head reading, At first I thought that was all that was going to happen, until a text box appeared reading the follow. Charon wants you to follow him. Will you follow him? Yes or no? I thought that this was a little odd. How is the game doing this? Or better yet, how was Charon able to affect it like this? Was it that advanced of a hack? I decided that, since my game didn't seem to be glitching or freezing up so far yet, to go ahead and go along with it. I chose yes, and no sooner had I done so, Charon used Teleport once again, using its awful, tortured cry. I winced and waited, figured he'd just teleport me outside of the Pokemon Center again. This wasn't the case, however, as instead I found myself in the hallway of the Old Chateau, Charon by my side. I panicked, realizing just how impossible this was, turning around to try the door. Unfortunately, however, a dialogue box appeared reading simply, "This door is locked from the outside. There is no way to leave yet." I was chilled and I swallowed, wondering just what the hell was going on. I tried turning to Charon again in hopes that he would once again use me teleport, but the Gardevoir only responded with another and nothing more. Frustrated, I went to switch him out with one of my other Pokémon in hopes that doing so would undo the hack. However, when I opened my party, I was stunned to see it was completely empty, save for the Gardevoir, whose HP was still at 0. I resisted the urge to shut it off, and then, fearful that by doing so would only corrupt my game with whatever had taken it over, and worst of all, lose all my Pokémon. Closing the party screen, I decided to just go along with it for now, though I was reluctant. The Old Chateau was never my most favorite place in the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum games. In fact, ever since I spotted my first non-Pokemon ghost in that place, I swore off going back in there ever again in the game, and the music itself was creepy enough too. Irony is cruel, I suppose. I started wandering around the mansion, nervous as ever, and expecting a ghost to pop up any second. I let out a sharp gasp when the random battle music began to play and a wild Ghastly appeared. I didn't think it was possible, considering he had no HP, but Charon was sent out into battle, his sprite far more disturbing from behind and clearer than before. It seemed the gash in his chest went all the way through his body, the black ooze dripping from behind as well. I took a moment to compose myself before continuing on with the battle. When I could look at the screen again, I grimaced and used Shadow Ball. I was shocked and a little disappointed to see it take out the Ghastly in one hit, hoping I would have been able to catch it and have something else in my party at least. Unexpectedly, however, when the Ghastly fainted, a dialogue appeared that wasn't the usual one for a victory. Wild Ghastly was caught. I couldn't believe it. Immediately, I checked my party, and sure enough, the Ghastly was there. In fact, it was still even fainted. Unfortunately, however, I was unable to move the Ghastly up my party roster, almost as if it were locked. I decided to try talking to Charon again, to see if anything else would happen. At first it had the usual, again, only for another dialogue box to appear reading once again. Charon wants you to follow him. Will you follow Charon, yes or no? I started grinning with relief, realizing that maybe this time I would be teleported out of here and back to the Pokemon Center. So right away I chose the option for yes. I hadn't realized then how huge a mistake that was at the time. But rather than you teleport, instead I unwittingly relinquished all control to Charon. He began leading me further into the mansion, and all I could do was watch helplessly. Every few steps we'd run into another wild Ghastly, defeat it naturally, and the fainted Pokemon somehow was instantly added to the party. The Gardevoir all the while, still able to battle despite being either fainted or dead perhaps. I didn't ponder this revelation for long, however, as Charon soon made his way, while leading my trainer all the while to a door. I realized that this was the room you entered to catch Rotom, only I was unable to see inside before the Gardevoir let me inside. Once we entered the room, however, it was definitely a far cry than it was supposed to be. It was much larger than I remembered, and the walls and floor had holes and looked as if they were rotting away. At this point, Charon stepped away from my trainer, and to the center of the room. All the Ghastly we caught together left me, and joined the Gardevoir as well, circling around it. Charon then turned around, his sprite facing mine from where he stood, encircled by Ghastly. At this point, it started to, from the way it sounded, use Perish Song. Only the song itself was lower in pitch, and much slower. It sounded as if some static was corrupting it. I tried to lower and turn off the volume on my DS, but it didn't do anything. If anything, the song seemed to grow louder and kept playing over and over again. As it sang, the ghastly began circling as if dancing around Charon. And that's when I noticed that what began to look like a black hole opened up beneath the Gardevoir. Abruptly, the song stopped, and so did the ghastly. A dialogue box appeared with another But then it continued. Instantly, I realized with a shock, Charon the Gardevoir was talking to me. "Thank you for bringing me here. These souls and mine will rest now. We're not done yet, however. Your turn will come. Your turn will come. And in 5 days, I will come get you." It was about this time when Gardevoir's cry shrieked out of the speakers at an impossible volume and horrible pitch. I dropped my DS to cover my ears, cursing when it hit the hardwood floor and shut off suddenly. I tried starting my DS again, but I already knew it was no use. It was broken, and all because of me bringing some creepy Pokewalker. I ended up tossing it out. By the way, it stopped working too after I transferred that Gardevoir into my game. At first I couldn't sleep because of that eerie warning. I had all kinds of horrific nightmares about Charon's black bleeding eyes and disturbing cry. I know I shouldn't be worried and worked up over someone's sick idea of a joke, but I gotta admit, it was a hell of a convincing hack. It's been almost a week, and so far nothing happened. The story ends here. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, it helps the channel a lot. See you next time.